today, DoubleZero disappeared.
Yeah.
And the current fiber and internet existed. What does 5 years from now look like?
Pretty much the same as today. I mean, without DoubleZero. I will say, the interesting thing is that internet speeds do not keep pace with Moore's Law even remotely. Oh. About 15 years ago in New York, you could get a 1 gigabit internet connection. Yeah. Today, Verizon just rolled out 2 gig connections.
Right.
And it's like, that's great. That's a huge amount of bandwidth. But what we really don't see, especially on the public internet side, are these things keeping pace with where we really want them to get to.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're here today. Yeah. DoubleZero exists.
Yes.
What's the goal in 5 years?
5 years, let's see. So
yeah, I'm just saying arbitrary time.
No.
Future.
There's a few ways to think about this. So the internet today has no prioritization system. There's no way you can pay for priority. You'd think there is, but the internet's basically like FIFO with zero deliverability. You would imagine that Epic Games and all EA games or anyone can basically go and pay the ISPs to prioritize their traffic. You can do that with an individual ISP. The problem is the minute that data crosses to someone else's network, they're like, you're not paying me, and they throw all the prioritization away. And there's no common standard for how to prioritize from one ISP to another, to another, to another. And so maybe within the New York metropolitan area, Verizon prioritizes some data on their network for Netflix or something. That's doable. But it doesn't work for anyone who is not a giant, massive FANG level company.
Okay.
Although, so that's kind of our long term is the cloud transformation was more of a business model transformation than a technology transformation. It was the idea that you could always call a dude and 4 weeks later get 40 servers to show up. The difference of the cloud was you can show up with a credit card to Amazon and 30 seconds later have 40 servers ready to go. And that's kind of what we're doing for on-demand high-speed connectivity, in addition to the persistent connectivity needed by things like validator networks.
With DoubleZero, how does that affect these new sort of next-gen sort of purpose-built blockchains that'll be like Colo and stuff like that?
Yeah, so setting aside the Colo piece for a second, because that's a slightly different subset.
Okay.
We are now seeing a bunch of networks being built that assume they're going to have 100 gigabits of connectivity between all their validators, whether it's through Colo or whether it's because they're all going to be running on the DoubleZero network. And that allows protocol developers to build and design fundamentally different systems than they would build otherwise. You have to, look, there's actually this great story about the first iPhone. And the modem in the first iPhone was trash. And it wasn't because the modem itself wasn't good, it was that the Apple engineers that programmed it, they didn't believe that cell phone connectivity was as bad as it actually is. And they thought okay, great, we have all this great technology that we've built. This stuff must work pretty well, even on 2G. But it's literally you hold up your phone and you turn 15 degrees to the left or right, and your signal drops by 50%.
Yeah.
And Apple just didn't believe that was how, they're like, there's no way this chaotic of an environment is how we power the entire cell phone network.
And it was. It was right. Like a crap network.
Exactly. And that's blockchain today, though. It runs on the public internet. The public internet is this complete mess of connectivity. Now, it's incredible. It works, right? The most incredible thing about the public internet is it actually works. But if you can get rid of all of that, if you can truly design for performance first, you can build things that are way faster because you don't have to account for all of that variability and cruft that comes from the public internet.
Yeah, totally, dude. That's why I think what you're doing is so interesting, because you're crypto adjacent. You're doing crypto.
Yeah.
But you will have possible customers that aren't just crypto.
Oh, we already have companies reaching out to us that are, I would say, we have non-crypto, and then we have crypto adjacent, which are like a market maker, like Galaxy.
Yes.
Galaxy doesn't run a chain, but they do lots of market making and trading on chain. That's why they became a contributor, is they're like, this will benefit many other business lines that we do. There's also a thesis of Sol will go up if we can do 500,000 transactions per second. And sure, you can draw your own conclusions on that.
Yeah.
But I think the main piece here for them is this is very additive to everything they do in of the traditional finance on crypto, because it makes the networking environment more similar to that of a traditional exchange.
Okay.
Which is also what Fogo is doing.
Yeah. See, Fogo is interesting too in that same sense, because it's when you get real traders, when you get people who they're not trying to make 100x and using time and risk to make profits. They're using strategies and large volume to make small, consistent gains for stackable across a year.
Yeah.
You start looking at all these like very specific things, like, you know, when you start looking into like MEV and stuff like that and speed, like latency really actually does start to matter in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think we're just starting now, like the new regulations coming in a lot. Different type of players, maybe bigger players or more professional players are going to start needing different use cases to achieve what they want.
I mean, I think there's two ways to think about this. The first is they need, like, markets will be more performant if they're more predictable. I don't mean more predictable in terms of pricing, but like if I'm a market maker and I want to get a cancel in, does that take me 13 milliseconds or 17 milliseconds? Because that matters a lot, because getting picked off in that in-between. So we basically have to do one of two things. We have to put speed bumps in and build the same ideas that traditional finance has, which I'm bearish we can make that work in a decentralized system. If it's permissionless.
Well, you're getting to a point too where you said speed
Yes.
bumps. You've got like, 1 millisecond's almost too fast. 100 milliseconds is too slow, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of want this like Goldilocks. Like,
Yes.
and you know, Fogo and Doug, they're saying 40 milliseconds is sort of enough where it's fast enough to where you don't notice, but not so fast that people who do, as they like radio frequency trading, I don't even know what they were saying. Like people who do some pretty elaborate stuff.
Oh, sure.
Can't win.
Yeah,
or get a benefit.
There's a lot of theories and ways to think about this. What happens right now in the traditional markets is the exchange matching engines are so fast, and most of the profit is made from arbitrage. So it's not exactly like I'm getting an internal data signal from NYSE that the price on NYSE has moved and I'm responding faster than you, because in a NYSE data center, everyone's got the same cable length. Right?
Yeah,
and so
right.
and like you have some code advantage, but really not much. Mostly what you're getting is a price moved on the Nikkei, a price moved in Chicago, a price moved in London, a news event occurred like, oh, Trump tweeted something.
Totally.
And it's like, how quickly can you ingest that tweet and send an action based on what you think the market movement is going to cause after that?
Exactly.
And so all of the latency, all of the time to improvement on a centralized network like New York Stock Exchange is on your arbitrage time to getting information into your system.
Yeah.
And that's where the traders who are going past fiber, that's why they're going past fiber, is all they need is a little bit of signaling that can be sent over microwave towers or shortwave radio, and then they can trade based on that.
What is one area in crypto that you thought would be bigger that didn't actually take off?
So far, it's tokenized stocks. And it's not because, like, oh, there's such a problem with stocks not trading 24/7. The problem is, like, it's very hard if you're in India or Pakistan or somewhere like that to get access to stocks. I would have thought that would have taken off by now. Now, there's shitty wrappers, there's all these like problems with them in the current infrastructure, but when you're thinking about people who have zero access to Tesla or TSMC or Circle stock, I would have thought there would be more demand for those things, and I'm surprised there hasn't been. The inverse of that is non-US dollar treasuries. That's a really interesting, like EtherFi has tokenized a bunch of Mexican debt in Mexican treasuries. And, you know, in the US, we're like, oh my God, why would you buy a Mexican treasury bond? Well, it's people in like Argentina who are buying it, who are like 12% yield, and Mexico's incredibly stable relative to the place I'm in. This is a great deal. And so I think we don't understand the market of less developed countries very well in terms of what economic products they're actually interested in.
Okay. So let's talk about the economics of DoubleZero when bandwidth and hardware becomes like commodity prices.
Yeah. So, you know, it's funny. I was just talking to a few folks about this last night, and there's no pricing model you can come up with that has anything in crypto worth what it's worth today. It's all astronomically higher or astronomically lower. Oh, like the only way you can justify what Bitcoin should be worth is $0 or $1 billion.
Yep.
Like on any type of like, you know, cost averaging PD ratio model, Ether should be worth $20, Sol should be worth $2, or Ether should be worth $10,000 and Solana should be worth $5,000. There's nothing you can backtest that like tracks you into what things are actually valued today.
Totally.
So how do we approach this, or what's our theory of this? If you add up the sum total of all of the value of all the real estate in Manhattan, that is not the way to measure the value of Manhattan, right? Like that, there's all these models we're trying to apply to how to value these networks that don't feel like they work for me.
Agreed.
And there's kind of this mind virus of Bitcoin, which is scarcity. And it's worked for Bitcoin. It doesn't work for anything else. And I think the attempts to create scarcity are largely incorrect, because what makes Ethereum valuable is not that it only does 15 things per second.
Yeah.
Right? Like if that's the value proposition for Ethereum, like, and it's scarce, like that's so boring, and it also doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an abundance mindset. And so for us, when we look at this, like we thought about a lot of different economic models of like, what if we charge per gigabyte, per whatever, like the way a classic ISP charges. The problem with that is it discourages use, right? What I want is I want every single protocol maximizing the available bandwidth of compute and all the resources it has to have the most abundant system possible. And if we create artificial pricing constraints that are based on usage, not value, we've created something that is against our long-term future. And a great way to think about this is like TSMC, right? So like TSMC is one of the coolest stories in the world because the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, they came in and took an entirely vertically integrated industry. IBM designed, built, manufactured, they owned the fabs, they owned the design, they owned everything. And what they were basically able to do with TSMC is blow that industry up entirely, and now it's only horizontal integration. Because the manufacturing expertise of semiconductors was so high that once they got into a little bit of a flywheel, no one could keep up with them. There's literally no one else in the world that can manufacture at what TSMC does today. And I think that is much closer to the way crypto will grow and evolve, is that we'll have these compounding advantages because we don't have the compliance constraints that, and not from a legal perspective, but literally like, we don't have a problem of someone can change a value in a database.
Exactly. That's like my favorite thing of crypto.
Yes. And so like the long-term future of this is if we just keep accelerating as fast as possible and pouring as many resources as possible into widening the gap between finance and blockchain, that's just going to keep accelerating. Like Web 2 cannot compete with the 10-year projection of where Web 3 is headed.
We're here at the Fuggo offices. Love it.
There you go.
There it is. You're a founder, so you're having to do founder posting and stuff like that. How do you think about your following and balancing being a founder with it and just being you posting on X?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think you can think about your following too much because the thing that got you your following was doing what you've always been doing.
Okay.
Like if you start to try and moderate too much to what that you think they want, first off, you're probably wrong. And second off, like people can tell, like you see a lot of like political influencers go through this. Mm-hmm. They have this moment where they get really popular and then they start trying to adjust what they think their audience needs. Yeah. And you end up at like Laura Loomer pretty quickly, Totally. And it's like, not even as like someone who's like, oh, their following is down, but they just like, no one listens about them anymore. They don't matter as much. This whole thing happens. And I think the more I have read and learned about AI, the less special I think human brains are.
Same.
But that comes into like, if you start changing the content you're producing to match what you think your audience wants, you start changing your brain.
Yep.
Right? And it like, yes, as you get older, it changes, but like all these supplements and crazy shit we're taking is all about making sure that your brain stays plastic. Yep. And so you have to be really careful. This is why they're like, don't spend too much time on crypto Twitter or flip into a mode where you know what you're doing.
Yep.
I also think we have maybe 3 years left of Twitter.
Interesting. Go on. Go on.
Unless they make massive platform changes. Like, dead internet theory is real.
Dude, okay.
And it's happening.
Hold on. Dude, I've been talking about dead internet theory all the time. Hold on. Let's all right, we're doing a little... All right, we're talking dead internet theory here. Kind of, I've been doing this BC Boy shot in each one, and people...
Yeah, I was actually like, oh, yeah, that is kind of what this is.
Yeah, we're in New York.
I recognize this from the early 2000s.
Yeah, the early 2000s, yeah. So, okay, dead internet theory. We're just talking about this. Go for it.
Okay, so this I forgot who came up with this, but it's been around for a while. It's the idea that eventually the internet will just be robots talking to robots. Yep. The economy will also be robots talking to robots, but the internet one is like more relevant. Yeah. So I think I don't know, like unless there's some massive product changes made in Twitter, we are 2 to 3 years away from it being completely gone.
Agree. I think social media needs to have a true blockchain forward product instead of all the products backing into a... Like they take a Web 2 product, Twitter, and try to hook a blockchain to it.
Yeah, but I wonder how...
I don't think it works.
I don't know how solvable any of this is, though, because, like, what you saw was Instagram got materially changed by influencers. Yeah. Like, Instagram used to be a place where photographers posted stuff, and now it's, like, where people just, like, show you how to cook the meat or whatever.
Doing AMM.
Or doing... Yeah. But, like, all of this stuff has changed in a way that the monetization driving factor...
MLM. Sorry, I said AMM. Yes. That's how I know I'm like selling to crypto. No, MLM.
Yeah.
I'll fix that in post.
You're good. But like that's changed the whole dynamic of what the internet is.
Totally.
And I mean, Kaido, right? Kaido's it's not a bunch of AI. It's a bunch of mostly real people posting just dumb stuff all day.
Just being driven to try to get points.
Yeah, and this is where, like, I am deeply worried about not the long term of humanity, the short term.
Yeah.
Like, every time we have a new communications medium that dominates the world, a generation is basically lost to going insane. And, like, the first version of this is World War I. Actually, the first version is the printing press in, 1624?
Oh, okay.
We had 100 years of religious wars in Europe started by the fact that people could print shit. That literally, that is, like, what launched 100 years of religious wars, was people are like, oh, man, like, I read this letter, and now I'm going to go kill a bunch of people. And that is, like, not that different from election interference.
Yeah.
Or, like, we should bomb Iran. Like, all of this stuff that is driven by opinion-based influence, even in market. It doesn't have to be like an external terrible force or something.
No.
People don't know how to deal with this. Like, radio created fascism.
Dude, and also radio was like a big part of like the Great Depression.
Sure.
Right? Because people were like basically investing into radio like it was AI today.
Right, well, so one of my favorite things is what we have seen is as markets get more information, they get worse at pricing. Right, which is not what you expect. Like, you would expect that we would have fewer supply chain shortages in 2021 and 2022 and 2023 because we have so much better market data. Yeah. Now, yes, we had like shortages from COVID, but we also had these things happening. You like Odd Lots is like incredible for this, but you would see these stories about like we overbuilt outdoor furniture by like 400,000 tons. And now you can go get like really high-end outdoor furniture for like 75% off. Because they just overbuilt, and it's like, so everyone is making the same decision at the same time. It's this very funny loop where everyone's acting on the same signal, but no one's communicating out their decisions. And so every factory shifts over to building outdoor furniture. Everyone decides we don't need to build container ships anymore. Everyone like basically makes the same decision at the same moment. And that effect is way more distortive than markets that have less perfect information, just making decisions based on human whims.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Dude, you break down systems really well. You know? Like, I feel like you can see a system.
I like this.
You used to be at Solana.
Yeah.
From working for a founder, being a founder, what is one way you wish you would have done something different when you worked for a founder?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think it's very hard to. There is a certain amount of long-term thinking a founder has that's almost impossible for an employee to have, and that matters a lot. I think part of it is there's this weird. So one thing I wish we would sort of bring into some of these jobs at some point is some idea of tenure. Yeah. Now, there's a lot of reasons you don't want that. Like, it's very hard to hire anyone in Europe because you literally cannot fire them. True. And so everyone's hired on one-year contracts to keep that in pay. But there's a lot of insecurity as an employee that obviously goes away entirely as a founder. And it's not even like intentional insecurity. It's just the idea of like, am I aligned with what my boss or my founder wants? And sometimes you don't actually have to be aligned. Like, this is, I would say that the biggest thing I have maybe learned in that transition is that if you optimize too much for what a founder wants, you're often not doing the work you should be doing.
Dude, I agree with that. That is a really astute point because, I've only worked for founders, and I've often noticed that like I have a skill set, and if I bend too much from what I truly believe, then why did they hire me?
There's two kind of ways to look at this, and it gets hard because people are investing and they have really like large economic reasons to stay at a job. But if you're not believing in what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it.
From a founder or an employee?
Employee perspective.
Really?
Yes. I really think that if you... Now, it doesn't mean you can disagree and you can say, hey, our strategy here is wrong. If you don't voice that, voice that, and then if the founder's like, no, we're doing this thing, you're like, okay, I work for you, we're doing this thing now.
Disagree and commit.
Yeah, but if you truly think like 6 months into that thing, like, this is totally wrong, I don't believe in how we're approaching this, I don't think this will be successful, go look for another job.
Agreed.
Like, have the confidence in yourself to leave.
Yeah, and if your skill set isn't being utilized, same thing. Like, say you believe in something and they just aren't. Sometimes, like, founders are usually really intelligent. But in crypto specifically, I've seen some of the very intelligent people. intelligence doesn't always parallel across all industries though, right? So if you're like a founder who understands the nuances of blockchain, you might not understand the nuances of website content, right?
Sure.
Or the boring stuff of like the hygiene of websites. So I agree with you a lot. You just like find your own thing, have confidence in your ability.
Yeah.
Dude, we're gonna get like motivational on this. What do you think the point of a token is?
It is just a new system of aligning interests from disparate parties towards a common outcome.
Okay.
It is just, I mean, the corporate structure, like the S Corp and the C Corp when they were invented, were a massive change in how you structure things relative to the old way you created alignment, which was an estate. Right? Like if you think about it, like the rich royal families of Europe or whatever, the way that they created alignment around economic interest was by blood. It was the idea that like, hey, you're born into this family, therefore you have a share of this estate, therefore we expect a lot from you, and then you pay your employees like you normally would.
Yeah.
And because most of them are serfs, you're not paying them that much, right? Or you have massive upside, like the Dutch. The Dutch had this like crazy thing when they were like masters of the ocean, where like you would go on a 3-year mission, like to go to India and steal some stuff, right? Or trade. Trade. And what you'd basically do is they didn't go with a mission. They went with the objective of bringing valuable stuff back. And this is why they created alignment really effectively, because you'd basically be, hey, if you bring back a ship full of potatoes, you're not going to get much. If you bring back a ship of gold, you'll never have to work for 4 generations. Yeah. And even like a lowly deckhand would be set for life from like one.
It's like early day crypto.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so opportunity was the aligning factor back then, or it was blood. And then we invented the corporation, which creates a different alignment structure. And tokens are sort of like the most open access form of alignment, because it doesn't require the wrapping of a corporate legal structure around it. It's much more free-flowing. Yeah. You can enter and exit a community just by owning something.
Yeah. I think the nation or the country that understands what you just said there is going to rip. Is going to have like this, because I get it, you get it. Most people I talk to in the real like non-crypto world are usually like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. You put some like legit regulation. I don't know if I'm going to keep this up, but you put some legit regulation around tokens and you give entrepreneurs a chance to do this. I think you're going to decentralize profits in a way that the world's never seen. And it's going to be, instead of having 5 trillionaires, which I think centralized crypto, without crypto, if crypto never invented, we'd have 5 trillionaires in a couple of years. We're going to have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands millionaires. You know, it's going to it's going to grow that way. It'll decentralize it, kind of like music did with MP3s, any of that stuff. Yep. That's my thought.
I mean, my sort of like hot take on this is we've always had wealth protection structures through regulation. And like you can go back as old as like, why was there a book of all the royal family names, and why did you have to have a legal marriage versus an out of wedlock child? Why does that matter? Inheritance. Yep. That was all about protecting literally the family corporation, the estate. And so it's really interesting to think about, like, what's our version of crypto? Well, it's probably some regulation around token minting. Exactly. It's probably like the role of a lot of these things are to make sure that the integrity of the logical unit, which is the sum total of the network, is not unjustly interfered with.
And now we're going walking around New York.
Now we're going somewhere.
Now we're going down like a weird alley. New York's dope.
Yeah, it's the greatest city in the world.
I'm about to walk into some Christmas lights. Let's do it. Next shot, Christmas lights. I don't know if that'll read on camera. Okay, do you think there's a moment in your crypto career that you can point to that was like either lucky or that you took advantage of is why you're here now leading DoubleZero and not just being someone who's into crypto?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, I had a whole theory and thesis on why I joined Solana. But I had no idea it was going to be a $120 billion company. Protocol. You know, when I first sort of was, so I was at Bison Trails, right, and they got acquired by Coinbase. Coinbase was not the right thing for me. And it really felt to me like the world was chasing sharding, which it was. And I just didn't think it was going to work. I was like, but I thought I as a non-engineer, I was like, I'm too dumb. Like, I must be missing something. So I would go and interview at all these L1s and L2s that are doing sharding and be like, how does DeFi work here? And they're like, we'll have fast bridges, it'll be fine. It's 2025. We don't have bridges. There's like
No, async is actually it's really a problem.
bridges. There's no composability between L2s.
No.
And-
They made intents to go around the sharding.
Yes. Like, and intents are interesting. They're not the same thing as atomic transactions.
No.
And so, I was like thinking I must be missing something. And a guy who used to work for me, Ben Sparango at Republic, he had joined Multicoin and then joined Solana Labs. And I was like, any interesting protocols I should talk to? Like, I'm feeling kind of uninspired by all these like protocols I'm talking to. He's like, well, I just joined Solana. You should go talk to Solana. And I was like, really? Like, I supported 50 protocols at Bison Trails. We technically ran Solana, but like we never met anyone there, really. And they're like, no, you should get on a call with Raj and Toli. And so I got on a call with Toli, and we're going through a bunch of stuff, and I asked him, hey, how do you think, like, how is DeFi going to work in a sharded ecosystem? I know you guys aren't doing that, but like, give me your best take on how it's going to work. And he just laughed and was like, oh, it's never going to work at all. Like, Ethereum's totally right. You need everything in one global state machine.
Yeah.
Just the state machine on Ethereum is way too slow. That's the Solana thesis.
Yeah.
Put all the world's information in one state machine, make it as fast as possible. And I'd love to say I looked him in the eye and said, this will be a $100 billion company someday. But no, I just was like, I'm going to learn so much here, even if this thing fails, that this will set me up so well for whatever else I want to do later on, and I'll learn so much from this process. And then I spent 4 years there. Wow. It was incredible. It was just such a great time.
What is DoubleZero? Say what DoubleZero is to a crypto person, like someone who's into crypto.
Sure. DoubleZero is a new token-incentivized network that allows blockchains to reach consensus much more quickly, allows us to do things like rethink how state propagation works, rebuild these type of architectures to go 10 times faster than they can today. And we do this using dedicated fiber contributed by independent contributors that is all cryptographically verified and all the telemetry is on chain. So we have more traceability and accountability than you get over the public internet.
Dope. All right, now you're a non-crypto person. How do you explain DoubleZero?
Sure.
You're at Thanksgiving or
we're
something.
building a new internet. Done.
A new internet.
All right, we're building a new internet optimized for high-performance distributed systems. And blockchain's like one of the most high-performance distributed systems that exist today, but you can use this for AI training workloads. You can use this to move data around much faster than you can over the public internet. And the problem is the public internet's fundamentally broken. The economic model does not support high performance, and there's no way to get high performance on the public internet. And this is why every large company in the world, from Wall Street trading firms to Google, and Facebook, and Apple, and OpenAI, build their own private networks. And so we're doing the same thing for crypto. And if you want the non-crypto pitch, we are doing the same thing to democratize and open access to high performance networking.
Yeah. You know, I love that you're like,
pitch.
Yeah, you're exposing the fiber of internet and how people like private companies have already they're going around it. It's I love that
for
you're
decades.
you're blowing them up.
It's like we got to go around it too.
Yeah, I think this is like the area no one talks about, but Zuckerberg's out there buying fiber.
They're the biggest investors in private fiber.
At the Bull.
We're in America.
This is America. Like, there's electric guitar. That's the line, so people can touch its balls. It's amazing.
You're not even kidding. It's exactly what the line is.
Yeah, that's literally what the line is for. We are here at the Wall Street Bull, or the Charging Bull.
The famous Charging Bull.
All right, what's the story about the Charging Bull?
So this was created, I believe it's 1982 after the stock market crash. And it's created, it's always seen as this rah-rah American capitalism thing. The bull was actually created after a massive crash in the stock market.
Oh, no way.
And it was created by an immigrant who grew up under a much more economically oppressive regime. Wow. And it's about the resiliency and the spirit of American capitalism and our ability to bounce back and adjust. So, and the craziest thing is for a while, there was that little girl statue that was put over there, and everyone was like, oh, female empowerment. It was a fucking PE firm that was trying to promote their ETF.
Dude, private equity
companies.
People, man.
And it was sort of this defiant capitalism thing, and it was literally the most exploitive capitalism, trending on social media empowerment movements that anyone's ever created. And whereas the actual story of the Charging Bull is this is an immigrant artist who created this from an economically oppressed country, celebrating freedom.
Dude, that's awesome. Who knew?
Yeah.
You did. How did you approach the SEC action letter and all that, or just give us the story about that, because that's fascinating to me.
Yeah,
and we can kind of meander towards, because we're actually at Wall Street,
We're
right?
at Wall Street.
We're at Wall Street.
There's
so I mean,
the exchange.
Oh shit! Yeah, we're right at Wall Street. Oh, we're like legit Wall Street. All right, so let's talk about that with DoubleZero.
So the SEC no action letter, this has been sort of the gold standard of crypto projects going after it for years. There's like, I think 4 they've ever given for crypto projects before us, and they were all for kind of like not real crypto projects. The no action letter is a very common thing in TradFi. It is basically a way that you go to the SEC and you say, hey, I'd like to do this thing. Can you evaluate it based on your interpretation of current securities laws and tell me if you see a problem with this from this type of structure?
Yeah.
This can be everything from like we're trying to offer a new financial product, or we're doing this new type of thing. It's great. Now, in crypto, these used to sort of be something people would go after, but starting in 2020, the SEC changed so dramatically that no one really bothered. Like, there are many, many mansions on the Hamptons built by lawyers applying for no action letters and not getting them. So we got connected with the Division of Corporation Finance through Cooley, the law firm. And they were basically, the SEC was looking for projects that are pre-launch, there we go, stock exchange, that were pre-launch that might be interesting deep in projects to evaluate from a no action perspective.
Yeah.
And so we spent probably 6 months like back and forth with them on a bunch of stuff. And what we found is like the examiners there, they were very professional. They were not pro-crypto. They were not anti-crypto. They were genuinely trying to do their jobs as regulators and bureaucrats to assess whether what we're doing would be okay or not. And this was a huge change from an SEC that had been actively hostile in previous administrations. And, we had a great experience working with them. And so the no action letter covers 2 main components of the token. One, which is really important, is the payouts to the people who provide fiber. So we take in we take in fees. Those fees are 50% of them are burned, 50% are distributed out to the contributors according to their contribution to the network.
When you say they're burned, they buy your token and burn it?
No, so like yes, basically like they pay in DoubleZero's token. Okay. We burn, or the protocol burns 50% of that approximately. Okay. The other 50% are distributed out to the network contributors.
Okay.
And the cool part about this protocol is there's no passive emissions. So the network contributors' payouts are based on the inputs into the system, which is much more similar to a proof of work in that if I provide 10% of the Bitcoin hash power, I get 10% of the rewards for that block.
Okay.
Or averaged out, I get 10% of the rewards. So we have this thing called proof of utility, where the amount a contributor gets paid is directly proportional to the usefulness of their fiber.
Okay.
The SEC really liked this model because it's non-passive, it takes action, it directly rewards people proportionally, whereas proof-of-stake networks, I love proof-of-stake networks, they are not proportional rewards to effort, they're proportional to token holdings.
Yep.
Yeah, and so getting the no action letter makes it much easier for telcos and all these companies that are not that familiar with crypto to actually participate in the network and not have to worry about these things being classified as securities transactions. Oh, there it is. There's the front.
I think that's a great way to end.
Yeah.
And now we're near our private equity shill. Watch, here it is. Private equity.
Yeah, here's the statue that's supposed to be inspiring, but was actually put out as a...
Well, this has been a
Sorry
blast,
to ruin
man.
it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you talking to me, man. And not only, you guys don't realize, like, Austin's quite the architecture in New York. Like, savant, man, that was awesome. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And I'm really looking forward to what DoubleZero does. And also, I'm really looking forward to all the validators and crypto projects that leverage it.
Yes.
So thank you. Appreciate you taking time, man.
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks for doing this.